the setup. Oh dear. My setup has changed a little bit, as you may notice. I'm currently sitting on a rickety fold-out side table, which means that this whole operation could collapse at any minute. My normal chair, is being refinished, so I have to wait for that. But, this setup has its advantages. I'm higher up now, so I think you can see my t-shirt, which that's nice, but also there's the risk of imminent collapse and horrible failure. So let's hope that that does not happen. But today, we are going to be talking about not horrible failure, but amazing and awesome creative people. Because today, if you read the title, you guys know what we're talking about, but we're talking about my favorite D&D YouTubers, people that inspire me to play this game. Now, I want to get one thing out of the gates right away. So, these are just YouTubers that I watch. I am not a person with unlimited time on my hands. I cannot watch every D&D YouTuber. So if your favorite is not on this list, it's not because I think that their videos are not of quality. It just means that I haven't watched them actively. So, yeah, that is the only reason. These YouTubers are just on here because they inspire me. They're my favorites, but they're not objectively the best or anything like that. I'm not trying to say that. That is not the purpose of this video. This isn't a tier list. This is just me recommending some people to you. This is also not a shout-out video. Obviously, if you've seen the size of my channel, I am clearly not in any position to be giving shoutouts to anybody. These are just, again, YouTubers that I enjoy, and I think you guys can get some inspiration from. So, without further ado, let's get started. Now, right off the bat, let's cover YouTubers that you guys probably already watch. How do I know about them? Well, YouTube Analytics has a little, these are channels your audience already watches thing. So yeah, I'm not going to talk about these YouTubers in extensive depth because it's redundant. A lot of you guys already watch their content. But shout out to CritCrab, Den of the Drake, Crowe's Perch, XP Level 3, and of course, Critical Role. You guys already watch these channels, but I will say for XP Level 3 and Critical Role, allow me to give you guys a little bit of supplementary material instead. For XP Level 3, if you haven't seen it already, check out Arcane Arcade. Arcane Arcade is their live play channel. It also has a few podcasts. It's good content if you enjoy Jacob, Spencer, that crew. If you enjoy their work, definitely check out that channel. It has a lot of really good stuff on there. It doesn't get nearly as much attention as their main channel, but I still think it has some really good content. For Critical Role, there's a ton of supplementary content for Critical Role. There's books, there's an animated series coming out. If you're watching this later down the line, maybe it already has come out. But for supplementary material for Critical Role, I'm going to recommend something that might sound a little bit boring. It is the Google interview with Matt, Marisha, and Travis. This interview is really, really interesting to me because I liked hearing about all the ins and outs of Critical Role, the company, and the show. However, this interview is great for Dungeon Masters for one reason. In this interview, Matt goes through his world building process on stage, live in front of the audience, and it is incredibly fascinating and incredibly inspiring. I love this interview. If you've got some time on your hands, absolutely check it out. If you want to learn more about Critical Role just in general, definitely check it out. And if you want a little bit of easy, simple advice on world building, as well as a live example of how world building can be done, then check out this interview because Matt does it on stage and it is so, so cool. All right, now, with all that being said, let's get into the actual list. And because we just talked about Critical Role, I think it's appropriate to start with some of my favorite D&D live shows, starting with the Oxventure.
Hello! Hello!
Hi.
Welcome
Hi,
back to
everyone.
Oxventure!
Now, a lot of D&D campaigns have a major problem, and it's just natural because it's part playing D&D, but they're long. A lot of D&D campaigns have a lot of content, and it's hard to get into them because of their length. However, Oxventure, well, they jump right over that hurdle because Oxventure is just a bunch of adventures. You can really just jump in at whatever time you want and get a good time out of it. Their arcs are pretty short. I think the longest one is maybe 5 episodes long, and their episodes themselves are only like an hour. So it's really easy to get into this show. Now, this is a show that doesn't take itself too seriously, and I love that. It's really tongue-in-cheek, and the outside Xbox and outside extra crews are really funny. They're just playing themselves in D&D, essentially, and you know, that's all right, because Those crews are hilarious as hell. They're really charming. They're really good at what they do. This show is just fun. There's no other way for me to describe it. The DM is clearly having a good time. The players are having a good time. And when I see people on screen having a good time with D&D, I'm having fun as well. Their fun is just infectious and I love it. It is a hilarious show and I totally recommend it to anyone. This is probably the most redundant shout out, massive scare quotes that I could give, because outside Xbox, where a lot of these episodes are posted, have 1 million subscribers, but this show doesn't get nearly as many views as I think it deserves. This crew is awesome and they totally deserve your viewership if you are interested in a short tongue-in-cheek adventure just to pass the time.
Welcome to Realms Apart.
Realms Apart is not like most D&D podcasts that I watch. Realms Apart is a heavily edited audio drama type series. It essentially takes a D&D game, edits it down into the important story beats, adds music, sound effects, all that jazz to create a super immersive and awesome D&D listening experience. I absolutely adore this concept. I don't really know how else to say it. This show is really great and it doesn't get nearly as much attention as it deserves. It's a really unique listen, and if you are invested in getting immersed into your D&D game, you want to use music, sound effects, all that jazz, I think Realms Apart is a really good benchmark for you to look at as an example. Obviously, you're probably never going to reach that level because it's edited. However, a lot of the ideas that I got from my own D&D game and the way I immerse my players, I got those ideas from Realms Apart. It's edited by Momo O'Brien. She has her own YouTube channel where she does immersive experience like vlogs. And I knew that her editing was good, but this just takes it to a new level. The audio editing here is really, really clean, really crisp. As a guy who's kind of obsessed with that sort of thing, I was really impressed by Realms Apart. It was a great listen.
My research, it's just historical. Of course, they're in the captain's quarters. There's a small library there. You can find everything on the shelves. It's
Thank you.
You let me live now, right?
I'm gonna pull my sword back. Oh, let me consider it. And then I jab through the chest of this man.
And on top of all that, if you're not a visual person, the first 10 episodes or something along those lines, the first few episodes are fully animatic, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, this show is great and definitely deserves more attention than it gets. You should definitely check it out if you want some benchmarks for how to get immersed in your D&D game.
Hi everybody, my name is Matt Colville, and as you can see, I am a white, middle-class, middle-aged nerd, and if you guessed, I bet that guy plays D&D, you would be correct.
Matt Colville is awesome. He's really good at what he does. I don't know how else to say it. Running the Game is an amazing series if you're a new or if you're an old DM. Every time he posts a video, it's a win for me. I absolutely love the advice he gives, and he gives it in a very concise, clear, clean way. It's everything I'm looking for when it comes to DM advice. And there's so much of it. Running the Game is over 100 episodes long now and covers a variety of different topics. There are many times where I see a question on DM Academy, the subreddit, and I'm thinking, man, there's a great Running the Game episode for this question. I totally recommend it to anybody who wants to run a D&D game. A lot of your questions are answered with this series. Now, in a way, it kind of falls into the same problem that a lot of D&D podcasts do, like Critical Role, where there's a crap ton of content. However, picking and choosing is the art of the game. Particular favorites of mine include Everyone Loves Zombies, Catastrophic, Failure, as well as action-oriented monsters. Those videos are phenomenal, but honestly, every Running the Game episode is probably worth a watch. They're all really, really good.
Good time zone to you all. I'm Ginny D, and I make videos about D&D, role-playing, character development, stuff like that.
Ginny D! Ginny D is great for new players. This is another channel that I feel like I don't really need to elaborate on. A lot of people probably already watch her videos, but she wasn't on that list I mentioned earlier, so I get to talk about her videos. I really wish they were around when I started playing D&D back in like 2015, because that would have been really helpful. There's so much great role-playing advice that I really would have loved to have as a new player. And I totally recommend her videos to any new player in my campaigns that wants to get into role-playing. A lot of D&D advice I see for players is mechanically oriented, but I've never really been nervous about that personally. In terms of mechanics, I'm not worried about getting them wrong, because my DM will just usually correct me, and I hook onto and remember mechanics pretty well. That's just how my mind works, but in terms of role-playing, I really struggle. Character creation and playing that character in the game are things that I'm not totally familiar with. And Ginny D's videos are really helpful for people, both new and old players, who want to get into playing a character and creating characters more in depth than just, she's an elf, oh right, she's also a ranger. If that's something that's up your alley, if you are somebody who wants to get into role-playing, her videos are totally made for you. She's also been making some pretty solid DM advice videos on note-taking and creating more interesting combats, both of which are really helpful. Just in general, her videos are great. Even beyond the D&D advice, you've got really cool creative projects like she cosplayed Tasha, she made a gelatinous cube dress. I mean, they're just cool projects. Her videos are neat. Definitely check her out.
I'm Bob, and I make D&D videos about homebrew, modules, and occasionally testing out these rules in real life, all in the name of us learning how to have more fun playing D&D together.
Bob World Builder. This guy is awesome. I had him on my Roll for Insight show, and I knew his content was amazing. But at that point, I had only seen his videos where he talks about D&D and real life. He essentially tries to mimic D&D's speed rules, climbing rules, etc. in real life and see how they check out. And those videos are really fun. But where he truly shines, I think, are his advice videos. His advice videos are short, sweet, and to the point, covering obscure rules that you don't really talk about, like fire, for example, talking about modules. He had a whole series on Rime of the Frost Maiden that I imagine is really helpful for anyone having trouble with that module, a module that for a lot of people was difficult to run. He and his fiancée, Grace, the World Destroyer, bounce off each other really well, and both have an amazing podcast where they talk about various D&D stories and cover D&D advice. It's really great content. Bob's advice videos are small nuggets that make your D&D game better in big ways, and that's why I cannot recommend him enough for both new DMs, new players, old players, doesn't matter. His content is definitely worth checking out.
Hello humans, my name is Dael Kingsmill. It's a D&D video today.
Alright, Dael Kingsmill from Monarch's Factory. She has some really good D&D advice. A lot of her advice, interestingly, is advice I never would have even thought to look up, and that's why I love her channel. I never would have thought of running the Displacer Beast like a Velociraptor in Jurassic Park with a mini game where you hunt the beast down through the jungles or the forests. I love that idea, and I never would have thought of that concept. Or going more in-depth with black market currencies. I don't really think about black market currency that often. I just had players purchase with money, but that's another little nugget that can add a lot of depth into your game. And that's one thing that I'd say about Dael Kingsmill's content. Depth. It adds a lot of cool new elements to your game if you take her advice in her videos, and I definitely recommend that you check it out at the very least. Her content, like Matt Colville's, is really concise, clear, and easy to understand, and her videos go in depth on a lot of really interesting subjects for Dungeons & Dragons. So yet again, another solid recommendation, especially for DMs. Alright, and those are the D&D YouTube channels that have inspired me in the past, man, I've been started in 2015, so 7 years I've been playing / DMing in Dungeons & Dragons. I really love this game, and these creators have made it all the more enjoyable. So if you haven't checked out any of their content, then I recommend that you do. I mean, clearly, I said it multiple times throughout the video, but yeah, just to say it one more time right at the end. What are the YouTubers that inspire you to play Dungeons & Dragons? Who helps you the most when you are DMing or playing this game? Make sure to leave them down in the comments down below. I kind of want this video to be a forum for people to find new D&D creators out there. If you guys enjoyed this video, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of my content, I also have an extensive RPG horror stories series with over 100 episodes. You can check that out in the cards, and also subscribe to my channel for more of our content every few days. And if you want to leave your own tips or thoughts, go down to the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, like I said before, leave your favorite D&D creator. In essence, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you all next time. Farewell.